All right, welcome into today's show. I'm joined by Ryan King with King's Barbecue. He's based out of St. Augustine, Florida. You're listening to the Barbecue Life powered by Hound Hogs Barbecue Supply at Hound Hogs BBQ Supply on both Facebook and Instagram, and houndhogsbbqsupply.com. Check them out. A lot of great stuff going on. All right, so Ryan has bust onto the competitive barbecue scene here over the last, year or two? And really taken off. So Ryan, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So let's talk about journey. That's where I always like to start. Journey is a fascinating thing. My listeners know that we talk a lot about it, but tell us about this journey for you into the crazy world of competition, barbecue, catering, etc.
I grew up cooking with family and cooking with my dad, on special occasions. And right around 2014, we had a 4th of July get together at his house, and we were cooking. And he was watching this program, Barbecue Pitmasters, and I watched it with him, and I thought I could cook with them just as well as anybody else could. and so I got me a smoker, and at the end of 2014, and in 2017, I went to Myron Mixon's Jack's Hole South Cook School. And then I decided to start competing with the Georgia Barbecue Association. And I realized really quick that I could not compete with those guys. I got my butt handed to me. And so I competed with them for a couple of years. And I stopped in 2019 to basically to save up and to get the equipment needed to compete. And then 2020 happened, so nothing was happening. And so for 2019 and 2020, all I did was cook at the house and practice. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of 2020, I competed in my first KCBS event, which was Swine at the Shrine. And I did not have a good showing there. I can tell you that the brisket, it to slice into it, the table moved. So
that's not good.
So you could say that I missed my mark on tenderness that day. And that's when it all started. And then my next event was the All-American Smokers, and it's out in West Florida past Tallahassee. I forgot the name of the city, but so I drove out there. I did the event, and I was so discouraged from the previous month's competition. I was sitting there, talking to the guy next to me, and I said, "Man, it's 2:00. I'm done cleaning. I'm going home. I never get my name called." Well, he took a picture of my trailer with my phone number on it, and like 6:00, this number calls me. He calls me up. He said, "I thought you never get your name called." I was like, "I don't." He's like, "It was called 3 times, and you were in the top 10." I about
wow.
flipped out. I couldn't believe that happened. And so, and then, just kept doing events, kept getting better. And we haven't met all of our goals yet, but we're heading in that direction.
I love it. Yeah. So interesting way to get into barbecue, right? So you started in 2019 and then realized, hey, I need to take a step back. And then of course the world changed, COVID hit, everything shut down. You got back into it. And I think it's a great lesson for anybody that's listening. I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna get your teeth kicked in. You're gonna get knocked down. You're gonna do poorly. You just got to keep getting back in there, getting back in the fight. And it's funny that you talked about Swine at the Shrine. We had the dubious distinction last year of the Dead Ass Last Award. So because I missed pork turn-in by 3 seconds.
Yeah. So the funny about that contest is the very next year, that was my first GC.
Wow.
And it was my first KCBS event ever. And then unfortunately, they're not going to have that event this year. But that in my opinion, that's a good event. That if you really want to put your barbecue skills to the test, go out there, pop up a tent, cook underneath it, because it's going to be hot. It's going to be rainy. There's going to be a lot of competitors there. It's going to be a good time, but you're going to test yourself. You're going to push yourself a lot to get through that event. And but yeah, like you said, I think to all the new teams out there, I would tell them, don't be discouraged. You are going to have events where you don't score well. You are going to have events where you're like, what am I doing? And so I urge anyone wanting to get into this, try out backyard and meet some people and come up to someone like Kurt, come up to someone like me, or Hold Your Horses or Bad Rooster or one of them, and just talk to them. And I think you'll learn what Barbecue Family is all about, and you'll get some pointers, and hopefully you'll get your name called.
That's a great point as well. I think it was oftentimes, we talk about it a lot. It's cliche to talk about the Barbecue Family. It sounds good, but it really is something special if you haven't had a chance to experience it. And the folks that you mentioned, Carrie at Hold Your Horses, and the Bad Rooster folks. I mean, there's a lot of good teams out there, and I think big picture. I had Scott Parr on the show yesterday, a couple days ago, and we were talking about how lucky we are in the South Carolina, Georgia, Florida region to have so many good teams just right here. I mean, like you said, you go to Swine at the Shrine, you go to Sip and Swine. I mean, you go to some of these contests just right here in the Georgia, Florida, South Carolina area, and you're cooking against literally top 10 teams in the country, so that says something,
It does. With the Georgia Barbecue Championship and cooking in the KCBS, you are, I mean, every contest you go to, you're going to cook against a team that has won multiple GCs. Some of them have been to the Jack. Most of them have been to the Royal. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's not easy to go up against those guys week in and week out. But it's a lot of fun, and they're some of the best teams on the circuit. They're salt of the earth, and they're just a lot of good people.
That's exactly right. And you're in you're competing very well against those teams. I mean, in just a short amount of time, you've basically been competing about 2 years or so. You've racked up how many GCs and RGCs now?
I have 3 GCs. I have 4 reserves. And then I have 2 reserves with a non-sanctioned Florida barbecue event. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I've had some success, and hopefully I can keep having success. I haven't had GC in a while, so it's been weighing on my mind a lot.
Well, that's true. Well, you were on a tear there. I think it was the last quarter of last year. I think you were on a pretty good consistent tear there for a while. Consistently top 3 in every contest, at least that I was attending. So, in addition,
you get, I was fortunate enough to round out 3 GCs in a row, and you go to every contest thinking, well, that's the expectation, and it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. That's right.
You'll get your feelings hurt.
You got to temper your expectations. So, GCs, RGCs, consistently being in the conversation, I think is incredible considering the short amount of time. And then, not to mention, you talk about going all in with barbecue, not just competitive barbecue. You talk about going all in with barbecue. You've also added recently 2 sauces, right? You've got the sweet and smoky, you've got the rib tickler, and then you've also added a rub, the all-purpose rub. And I can tell our listeners, I have the sweet and smoky is amazing. I've had it on chicken, and I've had it on pork. I've had the all-purpose rub on beef as well as pork. Amazing stuff. I always love to support, fellow teams and folks that take a step out there to create, their own sauce, their own rubs. So let's camp out on those for a sec, if we can. And just how did that all come to be? How did you come up with these rubs and sauces?
So I not only with competition barbecue, but I own a food truck and catering service. And my goal every time I cook something, my goal is to give the best product I possibly can to my customers. And that means they get a lot of layering of flavors, they get a lot of competition flavors, and they enjoy it. And I want them to. So, but there's an expense to that, right? Uh, it may only say 10.99 or 11.99 or $7 bottle, but you buy enough of them, it tends to. When you're a small business, it tends to rack up.
It does.
So I said, well, shoot, I need to find me a co-packer and tell him what I want and see if he can duplicate it. And so every time, my goal is to every time I grab a rub or grab a sauce on my food truck, it's mine. And so, I've already paid for it. Might as well use it rather than sending my money elsewhere.
Yep.
And it helps promote my business, and it also funnels money into the competition kitty, which I like a lot, so that's where it all started, and we just came out with it, and we had a backyard team last week or 2 weeks ago get last week or 2 weeks ago they got reserve, and they got first place rib call using both sauces and that one rub as appliance warehouse and barbecue supply. They have a team, real good guys over there, Robert and Will. They're all over the FBA circuit, and they do a couple of KCBS events, and they're doing a good job right now.
I love that mentality of, basically where you said, anytime I grab a sauce or a rub during a competition or catering, whatever it may be, it's mine. And there's something to be said for that. I think one of the things that I've noticed that you've done really well outside of winning, GCs and RGCs and consistently being in the conversation is branding. Branding is really, really important. I believe you're in real estate. So you understand the importance of that clearly in your other line of work. But yeah, I mean, you've done a great job of branding. I think a lot of other teams could take some notes to that, because I think one of the biggest things I see is a lot of these teams they're not focusing on branding. You might have a team that, that's consistently in the conversation. Nobody's ever heard of them because it's,
Yeah.
And I get
It's
it.
just not them. Yeah. I
right.
know I'm not good at it, to be honest with you. The first time I saw this logo on a hat, I felt funny wearing it. I wasn't used to the whole branding thing. But now I've gotten used to it, and now I want to see it more. I think you gotta learn how to get used to it, or you gotta learn how to do it. It's not easy.
That's exactly right. And you probably realize this like we did. Competition barbecue is fun. The family's great. Love competing. Love going up against some of the best teams in the country. Month in and month out. It's not the best retirement plan, however.
No, no, it's not.
So in order to supplement or pay for your habits, so to speak, coming out with these types of things, I think is important. Because if you're getting into competition barbecue thinking that you're going to make money, you better reassess the situation.
Yeah, you shouldn't get into it. Well, I shouldn't say that. Never discount what you can do. If you think you can start something, if God has given you the fire in your heart to guide your path to whatever you want to do, I'd say go full bore, go all after it. It'd be very hard to do that with competition barbecue. So branch out with it. Have a food truck, have a catering service, do something to where you're cooking a lot, so that when you get to a competition, that muscle memory, that recalling what you get, the steps you got to do to get that product, that end result to taste delicious and tender and look presentable. That's one way you can do it. That's what I did. A competition runs me about the meat alone is right around 600.
Yep.
And and you're right, it is expensive. So having and you got to cook a lot. You got to cook a lot to learn how to do it. So having those other avenues, I think can help you out.
That's exactly right. And then, you throw in, you talk about the cost of competition, you throw in the application fee, you throw in, gas.
Gas,
I mean,
hotel,
yeah,
food.
you can see how it begins to get up there. And so I think it's important to have those supplemental sources of income. And I love what you said about just going all in. If you feel like you've got a gift and you feel like, you're being guided to pursue it, hey, go all in. I love that. Sometimes,
And don't be, and the biggest thing is ignore the chatter. You're going to go to a contest and people are going to win and you're not going to win. I encourage you to be humble about it and be humble when you win. But don't give up. If you love this sport like I do, don't give up at all. There's nothing that's going to stop me, and you got to have that attitude. And but cook a lot, practice, and then take a class. There is a really good competition class coming up at Appliance Warehouse and Barbecue Supply at the end of May. I highly suggest y'all look that up.
well, let's talk about that. How can they look that up?
So they can go to King's Barbecue Facebook page and look at my feeds, and there is and you'll see some of my shares and some of my posts where we have and it's going to be down in Cocoa, Florida. It's Appliance Warehouse and Barbecue Supply, and we're going to be doing a competition class, and we're going to be covering brisket and pork, and we're going to cook them a different way. We're going to trim them a different way, so that if you're a new team and you're concerned about taking a $300 brisket and cutting the point off and trimming that way, there's another way you can cook it where you don't have to do that. We're going to take the pork butt, we're going to debone it, and then we're going to leave the bone in, and we're going to cook them 2 different ways. And we're going to go through meat selection, where you go to get the meat, seasoning, sauces, cost. We're going and we're going wrapping and tenderness. We're going to build boxes. So it's going to be real informative on 2 meat selections that if you score well, you could hear your name called quite a bit. And then the night before that, we're going to have a dinner, meet and greet, and we're going to go over turkey and chicken wings.
And that is, and we chatted about this before we started recording today. And that's something that I think is important, because you might, listeners might hear, well, turkey and chicken wings, why are y'all doing that? And
yeah,
it's because
with the KCBS, you might run across a contest where they got turkey smoke, or they have a side
ancillary.
Side contest where they're having chicken wings or turkey. At the Boss Hog event, the Friday night before the competition, there's a chicken wing contest. So, and those can get you paid. And also right now, chicken wings are hitting with judges. So definitely learn how to put those in the box and how to make your box look beautiful, and how to make them taste good and tender.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it's always fun just to cook different things anyway. And I'd encourage listeners, if you go to a contest and they got a Friday night rib burn, or they got a Friday night turkey smoke, a lot of times, with the turkey smoke, sometimes the organizer provides the turkey for you.
Yeah.
So do it.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. I mean, always throw your hat into the ring. I bet you there's a backyard team out there right now that has a killer turkey or a killer chicken wing.
That's right.
And they're just too worried about throwing their hat into the ring. And in all reality, they could throw their hat into the ring and win the whole damn thing.
And win it. That's right. So let's go back to the sauces and rubs. You've got the rib tickler, you got the sweet and smoky, you got the all-purpose rub. And I guess $1 million question is, where can people buy this stuff? How do they buy this?
So my sponsor, Atlanta Barbecue Store, you can go to them at atlantabarbecuestore.com. You can also, I've also partnered with Premier Gas and Grill in Green Cove, Florida, if you're in the North Florida area. And then if you're in the Central Florida area, you can always go over to Appliance Warehouse and Barbecue Supply. They have it on their shelves. And then in April, we're going to be coming out with King of the Butt Rub and King of the Beef Rub. And then hopefully later this year, I'll have my chicken rub out.
I love it.
Yeah, and then at that point, I'm just going to stop and just watch and see what happens.
And see what happens. So, this, I think this is important to camp out on for a second, because, Ryan talks about going all in, but you're also doing it. We're talking about a, 2-year journey here, where you've got GCs, RGCs under your belt. Now you've got 2 sauces. You've got rubs, more rubs coming out. So you're walking the walk is basically what I'm saying. And I think that's commendable, man. I mean,
it's wild to sit back and realize where you started and where you're at and where you want to go, and just watching God bless you with this business and this competition career, and just watching it mushroom, and it's just, and I have no idea where it's going to go. I started off with a smoker that cost me $200, and I gave it to a friend, and he still uses it. But to start off, and I think everyone should start off in backyard. You should start off popping up a tent and pulling 3 and 4 smokers to an event and having people meet you there with coolers, and don't try to start off with a $50,000 rig. Go cheap. Because that $50,000 rig, you got to put it somewhere. You got to put electricity to it. You got to clean it. It's an investment. Believe me.
I think the best thing you said, though, was just throw your hat in the ring. Like, get in there. I mean,
Don't be scared.
Worst case, you get last. And you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
They don't. In fact, you'll meet some of the best people. And if you keep, I promise you, if you walk up to someone like me, or someone like Brian Jarvis, or someone like Kerry Chastain, I guarantee you, they will give you as much knowledge as they possibly can.
Yep.
They do not worry. Walk right up and share some food with us. Let us eat, and we'll share some food from our. That's what I do. I hand out my brisket at the end of the contest. I'm like, taste it. I want to know. I want to know what people think.
Yeah, that's so important. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm glad you brought it back up again. It's just, putting yourself out there, getting uncomfortable, and, be willing to fail, I think, is ultimately the biggest thing. And I think you've done that. Started with humble beginnings, and you've continued to add on and challenge yourself, which I think is really cool, because that's what this is all about. I don't think anybody that's competitive, whether it's barbecue, whether it's sports, whatever it is, if you're competitive, no one enjoys getting last or doing poorly. Nobody enjoys that. But I think the true competitors understand that they have more to learn from that than getting your name called last, right?
Yeah. And I guarantee you the top pitmasters in the KCBS right now. So if you look at, Luton Booty, for example, I guarantee at some point in time he failed.
Yep.
For him to be as good as he is right now, and he's a rock star, and he had to start out somewhere. So I encourage everybody, if you're a backyard team wanting to do pro, get to know somebody, start tasting some stuff, do a class. If you're just someone who loves barbecue and wants to get into the backyard side of the KCBS, talk to somebody. It's very easy. It is not hard. You can get in and you'll be surprised how well you do.
So speaking of the class, one thing I wanted to make sure we covered, what is the date on that class you got coming up in May?
That is the last weekend in May. Let me get the exact date. Pardon me. It is May 26th will be the meet and greet, and we're going to be going over turkey and chicken wings, and we're going to be eating that night, and I'm going to be cooking it. And then the next day, the 27th, we're going to go over pork selection and brisket selection. We're going to, cut it up, and we're going to cook it, and it's going to be a hands-on event, and you'll be able to taste it. You'll be able to build a box. You'll be able to see what the judges see whenever I make something.
And we'll have, for our listeners too, we'll have that in the show notes. Again, you can go to King's Barbecue on Facebook. We'll have that in the show notes as well, so you guys can look at that. And if you can make it down there,
send me a message if you need rubs, sauces, or if you need the link. Yeah, they can direct message me, either Ryan King on Facebook or King's Barbecue on Facebook. Feel free to send me a message.
All right, so let's shift gears and talk about the long-term, viability and the long-term opportunities within the competitive barbecue space. And, I'm very outspoken about this. This is no secret that I feel like we as teams can improve the overall experience for the public. I'm curious to your thoughts because, we have seen obviously a downward trend in the number of teams that are signing up, et cetera. I know a lot of that has to do with COVID. But a lot of these contests that just aren't coming back. We've talked about a few here that aren't coming back. I'm curious to hear your take, how we as teams, and I know it's not an easy answer. No one has the right answer, which is why I love discussing it. But from your perspective, what do you feel like we need to do as teams to A, bring more value to the organizers of these events so that they want to continue to have us, and then B, make the public feel a little bit more welcome at these festivals, et cetera?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, if they're typically the contests that are out there that does not really have a marketing plan for the public is going to, they're going to struggle. When you get the public involved, coming in to like a festival type atmosphere, that can really generate some dollars. How us as competitors, can help. And I know a lot of competitors probably won't want to hear this. I know I struggle with this, but People's Choice, that attracts a lot of people. That attracts people to come in and taste the pork or taste chicken wings or something to that effect. And when you have the public come in and taste something, especially in the South, you're going to have a lot of guys say, well, I can cook just as well. I might as well do a contest. And right there, you have a backyard team coming into play. And I think, and I'm a solo cook the majority of the time. That's why I shy away from People's Choice a lot. But I think that as competitors, that's one way to help bring in revenue. Now, one way we can be a little bit more open to the public. Again, I shy away from this because I'm a solo cook a lot. So I have a time regiment that I go through. And, typically at 6 o'clock, I'm in to get me something to eat, go to bed. Where if we spend a little bit more time with the public, maybe even marketed to the public, hey, come and speak with this barbecue competitor at this time. He's going to be going over brisket, or he's going to be looking at chicken thighs, or he's going to be going over ribs. I think that would bring a little bit of added value to the public so they can see, okay, what do these competitors do? What do they do to a brisket to make it so much better than my brisket? There's very few people that have an idea of the time and effort and what we put into a brisket or what we put into a slab of ribs or a pork butt. And I think that would drive some interest and people paying at the door. That's going to drive the amount of money going into the events. Yep. Pocketbook. The Boss Hog does a great job. Yep. Boss Hog, it's in Waynesboro, Georgia. It's in the middle of May. It's a fair type atmosphere. They have food trucks. They have games. They have live bands. And it's a barbecue contest. We have a wing competition, on a Friday night. They do a dessert competition, and then it's a People's Choice. And so it's a really well-ran event. I mean, Lakeland Pig Fest, another good one. Festival of Discovery, another good one. What do all three of those have in common? They all have a festival type atmosphere where they pay at the door and people are allowed to walk in and mingle with barbecue competitors and talk to them. And a lot of them, South Carolina doesn't, but the other two have People's Choice and other contests going on.
Love that. Yep. I agree with you 100%. Giving the people something to get excited about, I think is really, really important. All right. Final question as we kind of wind down things here. And that has to do with really some words of wisdom, right? You've already shared a bunch, but if you had to share one or two different pieces of advice for folks out there that are looking to get into competition barbecue, create their own rubs, create their own sauces, what would that advice be?
So my advice is a couple of different answers. So one, cook a lot and mess up.
Yep.
Cook a brisket to the point where people are like, "This tastes terrible." Cook something and fail, and learn why you failed and correct it. Throw your hat into the ring. Don't be scared to jump in there and do one. Participate in a barbecue competition class. You'll get to know people. You'll learn how to cook. You'll have more confidence going into a barbecue competition to where you can get your name called and you can win yourself an award, maybe a little bit of money. Start off small and stay humble. Me personally, I keep God first in my life, and everything else seems to trickle down from there. But if you're humble at these barbecue events, you'll really enjoy winning, and you'll really enjoy cheering on your competitors when they win.
That's great stuff. Powerful way to wind down the show. Again, for our listeners, chatting with Ryan King, King's Barbecue out of St. Augustine, Florida. You can check out his stuff, Instagram, Facebook, King's Barbecue. Try that sauce and that rub. Like I said, it's great stuff. And Ryan, again, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, I had a great time. Thanks for having me, Kurt. And again, anyone has any questions or anything, just send me a private message. I'll be glad to help you out.